Many are having their power turned off because they refuse to pay the legacy fee. Others are having their power turned off because they refuse to pay these defaults, these failed meter charges.
Welcome to the Goddard Report. Comments made on the Goddard Report and TalkDigitalNetwork.com are an expression of opinion only. Here is Jim Goddard.
My guest is Sharon Noble, Director of the Coalition to Stop Smart Meters in BC. Welcome to the Goddard Report, Sharon.
Thank you very much, Jim.
This show is going to talk about Auditor Generals. Now, the Ontario Auditor General has come out with a very lengthy and scathing report about the installation of smart meters in Ontario. Maybe just give us some of the highlights from that report.
Well, many of the highlights mirror what has happened in British Columbia. There has been absolutely no financial oversight, which has resulted in Ontario spending double what they initially projected. The program in Ontario started in 2004, about 6 years before it started here in British Columbia. And as a matter of fact, I met with John Horgan and had written to Rich Coleman about the problems that had been incurred in Ontario. And everything that they said, the people were saying in 2010 about what the problems were identified by the Auditor General in this report. The money was spent without due diligence. The decisions were made based upon realities as they saw them rather than realities that should have been seen by an independent person. Now, whether they were torn by loyalties to corporations or whatever, the Auditor General didn't go into that, but she said that the decisions were badly made, resulting in more than $2 billion being spent. There are 73 electrical providers in Ontario versus just the 2 here in British Columbia. So that makes it even more complicated. But one of the worst offenders was Hydro One, which is the one public utility. It spent the highest percentage of the money, and but all of the ones were guilty. This was a provincially mandated program, which made no sense. She went further in saying that there were no savings that had been resulted in neither energy nor in prices being controlled for the customers. In fact, prices have continued, rates have continued to increase dramatically, and customers are seeing their monthly bills double and triple. Now, she didn't say this specifically, the doubling and tripling, but newspaper articles and people have been saying that for quite some time. She also said that time of use billing, which was one of the keystones for the program, as it is here in British Columbia, although they aren't saying that publicly, time of use billing is not working. The rates for the peak hours are not that much different from those for the cheap hours because they change them based upon the number of people using them. So more people are using the cheap hours, so they're raising the rates on them. So as a consequence, there's not a great differential between the time of use rates, which defeats the entire purpose of the concept of time of use rates. So there are many financial problems, no benefits, and she spent a significant percentage of the report talking about the fire hazards. And again, saying explicitly that there have been fires, smart meter fires in Ontario. She has no idea how many because no one is tracking it, just as in British Columbia. No one knows. No one's asking. So overall, her report was that the smart meter program is a fiasco. It was unnecessary, and it's a bottomless pit. She went on to say that the costs will not ever reduce because, as with any computer program or software program or wireless program, there are constant upgrades. The smart meter is expected in their business case to have a 15-year life expectancy, where an analog meter has a 40 or 50-year life expectancy. The initial cost for a smart meter is significantly higher than an analog. But in addition to that, the software that comprises the computer program that is in each computer, in each smart meter, will need to be upgraded constantly, has had already to be upgraded many times. She didn't go into the cybersecurity aspect of it, but we all know that that's going to be another aspect that's going to be very expensive. once the entire national and international grid is completed, the United States is going to be requiring cybersecurity investment that's going to be massive. So she basically said, the costs are ongoing, the costs will never end, and this entire thing is a total waste of money, and it didn't come through with any of the benefits. It hasn't provided any of the benefits that were promised.
Has there been anything done with the BC Auditor General on the issue of smart meters?
I have written the Auditor General. I wrote the Auditor General several months ago myself, outlining virtually the same issues that the Auditor General in Ontario identified, and I never received a response. Since the Ontario Auditor General's report has come out, I've been encouraging people to write to the Auditor General and demand an independent investigation like that done in Ontario, and many of the coalition members have written and sent me copies. I would encourage all of your listeners to do the same thing. The email for the Auditor General is bcauditor@bcauditor.ca. And we need to make sure that our concerns are being addressed by someone. No one is looking at it. Bill Bennett won't look at it. The NDP aren't looking at it. The BCUC has been told it can't look at it. With regard to fires, the BC Safety Authority can't look at it. Nobody's looking at it. The ombudsperson has basically said they won't look at it. The Privacy Commissioner is not concerned. These are all primarily, the Ombudsman and the Privacy Commissioner are political appointees, so that's not surprising. But the Auditor General is supposed to be independent, and based upon that assumption, hopefully this office will take our concerns seriously if enough of us express them. So I'm hoping that people will take a few minutes, write an email, and ask for an independent assessment. We can't afford this. The litigations are going to be expensive. There's nothing in the insurance plan that BC Hydro has that's going to cover the litigations that are going to come, whether they are for fire damage, and heaven forbid if someone should die, for the invasion of privacy that is bound to happen when these things are hacked, for health concerns that are going to be raised as a result of exposure to the radio frequency emissions. There will be litigations down the road, and that will be on out of our pocketbook, just as this all is. We can't afford this. This is a boondoggle, as it was expressed by McGuinness when he was Premier of Ontario. He said this was the greatest boondoggle of his political career, and it's a pretty darn big boondoggle here in British Columbia, too.
We'll have more with Sharon Noble right after this.
More and more people are looking to the internet for intelligent, riveting, and thought-provoking interviews. To advertise on the Goddard Report and TalkDigitalNetwork.com, call 604-699-8600, 604-699-8600.
In Goddard we trust.
Welcome back to the Goddard Report. We're speaking to Sharon Noble, Director of the Coalition to Stop Smart Meters in British Columbia. Have you had any more horror stories about fires or other mishaps involving smart meters in British Columbia?
It's been very, very difficult to get information recently, but I did get some reports back from the BC Safety Authority just this week. I'm investigating 2 more fires that appear to be smart meter related. That were outlined in the BC Safety Authority's annual report. In both instances, they're saying it was the meter base that was burning, but they don't know what ignited it. They know it was an arc, but the smart meter was destroyed in the fire, so they can't tell what the cause was. In one other instance, they say they can't tell what the cause was because Hydro, again, took the meter before the inspector arrived. This seems to be a constant story. This is a consistent story, that either the smart meter has been taken by Hydro or it's destroyed in the fire. So it's leaving us with something's causing these meters to burn, but nobody can say why. We have some technical information that is identifying many, many causes and many, many possibilities. For instance, that lithium battery and the fact that it's plastic. I'm still working on it. I have sent 10 fires to and full details to Bill Bennett, to Adrian Dix, and to many of the people in the parties. And as of last week, I believe it was last Friday, someone in the coalition received a letter from Bill Bennett that was filled with misrepresentations about many things. But at the end, he said there has been no fire, not one fire in British Columbia associated with a smart meter. And that was at least 2 weeks after he received my list of 10 fires. So all I can say is, obviously, they're hiding the truth, they're denying the truth, and we can't believe a word they say.
What's happening with the class action lawsuit concerning smart meters?
It's still, there's nothing more to talk about as far as that's concerned. Evidence has been presented, and we got a response back from Hydro and responded to it. But for the next 2 or 3 months, we're just on hold in a waiting pattern now.
How could somebody find out more about it?
There's really nothing more to tell them. Right now, it hasn't been certified yet, and the court has set aside 5 days to certify it. And until our court date comes, there's nothing more that, we're just waiting for that court date to come. Hydro had decided that it needed 5 days, which is ridiculous. It's ridiculous because this is a certification. This isn't the trial. And they're bringing in experts and they expect us to respond. It's going to be an extremely expensive process, and I suspect this is why they're doing it. And it's unheard of to be bringing in experts, and they want to argue the health aspect of it, which is not this is not our argument. Our argument is that our civil rights have been infringed upon. I have a right to say no to something that I consider dangerous. And I don't have to prove it's dangerous if a reasonable person reading and doing their own investigation comes to a conclusion that something is not good for them, that they don't want it on their house. I don't have to prove it's dangerous. I am a reasonable person, and I have found evidence that these things are dangerous, both from a fire standpoint and from a health standpoint. I don't want these on my house. And yet Hydro is going to be asking us to pay our lawyer to sit and listen to their experts for 5 days. That's an extremely expensive endeavor. And we're going to have to, raise money to fund this endeavor.
So they're basically trying to hold the trial before the trial is even certified.
Yeah. But more so, I believe it's a conscious endeavor on their part to use up our resources. They're using our money to fight us, and they've got a bottomless pocket. We don't. And we're having to pay our lawyer large amounts of money, even though he is charging us far less than he normally does, and certainly far less than the BC Hydro lawyers are charging Hydro. But they've got all the money in the world, and they are using that against us, preventing us and hoping that we will not have our day in court.
Are people having their power turned off because they can't meet these onerous service fees to get the readings from your analog meters?
Sadly, yes, Jim. Many are having their power turned off because they refuse to pay the legacy fee. Others are having their power turned off because they refuse to pay these defaults, these failed meter charges. If you remember, Hydro promised during the exchange for the expired meters, they said an installer will come to your door, will knock, will give you a chance to turn your power off if you wish, will tell you he's there to exchange your meter. People are getting $65 bills when no one came to their door. They have no proof that anyone came to exchange their meter. Many people who say they were home, there was no time, they left no note, there was no evidence that they ever came. One person was home, watched someone go to her door. She saw it was a Hydro truck. She assumed he was there to read her meter. He never came to the door. He was there for about 2 seconds, long enough to read the meter, went back in his truck and left. And she got a $65 failed installation fee because she had a sign by the meter saying, "I will not accept a smart meter." He wasn't there to install a smart meter. If he wasn't carrying anything. She said she didn't see him carrying a meter. Yet she is being threatened with having her power turned off if she doesn't pay the $65. This is highway robbery. What other corporation can send you a bill and expect you to pay it when they haven't done anything? And neither have they provided any proof that they attempted to do anything. This is a nasty situation, Jim. And many people are sitting cold today in their homes without power on a winter day because BC Hydro is trying to put screws to them.
Sharon, is there a website people can go to learn more about it?
We do. We have 2 websites, Jim. The Coalition's website is www.coalition, stopsmartmetersbc.com and www.citizensforsafetechnology.org. I would ask that people please write your MLA. Adrian Dix says that he's not doing anything about these fires. First of all, he told me he doesn't believe that fires have occurred. But he also said that he's not doing anything because nobody's complaining to him. I ask, is it a politician's duty to do what is right? Or is it only to do what's expedient because people are writing him and calling him? I'm asking people, please, write Adrian Dix, write Bill Bennett, write your MLA, and demand that the right thing be done. This is outrageous, and it's continuing. It's ongoing.
Sharon, thanks a lot for chatting with us.
Thank you very much, Jim, for allowing me the opportunity to bring people up to date on what's happening.
My guest has been Sharon Noble, Director of the Coalition to Stop Smart Meter. I should say, my mouth is so dry from all these interviews. My guest has been Sharon Noble, Director of the Coalition to Stop Smart Meters in British Columbia. You've been listening to the Goddard Report on TalkDigitalNetwork.com. Find us on Twitter at TalkDigitalNet. Our YouTube channel is Talk Digital Network. Comments about the show can be sent to info@howstreet.com. I'm Jim Goddard.
Comments made on the Goddard Report and TalkDigitalNetwork.com are an expression of opinion only. The Goddard Report is available online and mobile at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. The Goddard Report is a production of How Street Media Incorporated.